I've taken the phone out of the studio, so I don't have to be interrupted with that. I focused in on the sky and background because that's what we're going to work on in this video. And I'm using yellow ochre, alizarin crimson, ultramarine blue, and a bit of cobalt blue. Okay. Now, in the spirit of this, I'm bringing my light up in this direction. I'm going to start to tone it down now. We're going to go from these sort of warm pinks down to more purple now. And I'm adding a little bit of cobalt blue and alizarin crimson, but very quickly I'm going to go to adding a little bit of ultramarine blue as well. I want it to fade off. There's going to be a lot of purple in this background. Purple, mauve, varying degrees. You know, values are really highest here, and they're going to tone down as I get to the edges and as we come down. The sky is sort of going to blend into the bush that's in the background. That's the plan, at least. I think I'll cut that off. We'll cut that little tip off of the... You know, I have this smattering of foliage here. Just groups of sort of leaves that are hangers on. And I have this umbrella-shaped top to this tree, as though it's still very thickly foliaged. And I think I need to break that up a little bit. I like to give the impression of more autumnal, a more autumnal look, so to speak. Autumnal. Boy, there's a word you don't use too often. For the time being, at least, like I say, the sky will bleed in, or will blend in a little bit to the trees in the distance, to the point where in areas it might not even be that discernible. Where the sky starts and where the branches or where the trees start. I'm using a number 8 flat brush. And again, I do not have a large pile of mixed paint. I'm continuously mixing a pile and then a small pile and then laying it on. And once this is painted, that distant area, I'll go back in and put some highlights in here and there. That might be a little too gentle. I think maybe I should make it more obvious where the foliage begins. Okay, so we'll go into a little more ultramarine blue and alizarin crimson. I don't want a dramatic dark change, but unlike what I just said moments ago, I would like it more defined. So that's what we'll do. Let's, before we go too far, while I have that exact pile on, that exact mixture on my palette, let's go to the other side here and lay it in there as well. Oops. A stray hair. A boar bristle. A renegade boar bristle. We're going to do that. We're going to do that. And we're going to do that. That was just a little too extended. Heading off in that direction. Okay. Continuing with our ultramarine blue. Ultramarine blue and alizarin crimson, and you know, there's still some contamination. There's still a little bit of yellow ochre in there. Makes it a little bit warmer. It's okay. Warm is good. It's going to be sort of a warm looking cold day. How about that? Not having snow on the roof. Drooping over or piling up. Again, there's not a lot of snow on the ground. Let's not get careless and forget about what we're trying to do in the foreground. I don't want to forget about the foliage here. Painting in these leaves by not painting in the leaves, as you can see. Oh, I think I'm going to make this trunk a little bit narrower. Yep. Okay, let's leave this alone now. Let's go back up into here. Now, right now, I am also in this mixture adding ever so small an amount of turpentine. Not so much that I compromise the matrix of the paint itself, but just enough to make the paint a bit runnier. Now, that's partly because I did not lay fresh paint onto my palette just now. This is some paint that was left over from before the weekend, I guess. And a couple of the colors skinned over. My yellow ochre did not. It just in general got a little bit thicker. And my alizarin crimson got a little bit thicker. A little heavier body. Higher viscosity. No, heavier viscosity. So that's why I'm doing this right now. That trunk and behind there does not need to be quite as important either. Okay, put a little bit of white in with that. A little more ultramarine blue, giving us a little bit of a bluer look. Not much. Trying to be subtle, that thing I'm not very good at. I don't want that there. That's not a bump I want there. Oh yeah. By the way, I'm not using the knife. I decided to just skip that whole affair. I thought, given the subject matter and the way I had it drawn in, I thought, yeah, maybe we'll play with the brush on this one. I've done quite a bit of knife work lately, and haven't played with the brush, so I thought, well, this is the time. Let's do it now. I think I'm going to add a little bit of yellow ochre to that. Go a little more of a warmer purple / pink. I don't want to go too smooth. But I would like to shave this trunk, this branch down, make it just a little narrower. Okay, I think that'll work. All right. Oops, getting a little clumsy there. It's okay. I'll make it less clumsy if I need to later in the painting. Okay, I think we're still doing the right thing here. We'll try to avoid too much clunkiness in between these bits of foliage here. I don't want it to look too tidy, but I don't want it to look like a mess either. I just organized mayhem. Maybe that's the way to put it. Crimson, a little more ultramarine blue, a little more alizarin crimson as we come down. I apologize if I'm getting my head in the way of some of these shots, but my head needs to be where my head needs to be, or I just can't see what I'm doing. This tree trunk was pretty straight like a pole. I think I'll put a couple of wiggles in it just to break it up a little bit. break things up a little bit here. Okay. Excuse me. Yeah, I think we're doing all right. Okay. Stop fussing. All right, let's come back down over to the other side of it here. And first of all, I better put a little more ultramarine blue on my palette. And we're going to stay with the purples, but we've been very pink and red here, very warm, right? Now let's begin to cool it off, because once we get close to where the snow lies, these two, you want them to feel like they belong together. I'm not looking for a sharp, dramatic difference between the distance and the foreground. It's already too much. What I need to do now is try to work on toning that down a little bit. And that's why we're going to slowly get a little bluer. Like that. Remembering, this is not a telephone pole, it's a tree trunk. So, there'll be maybe not a lot of irregularities in it, but there'll be some. We don't want it to be too boring. Too flat, too straight. We'll get rid of that. We'll get rid of that. Okay, that's the direction we're going with that. And seeing as I have this color on my palette, I will, just for reference, yes, I can match it, but it's easier. It's easier when you've already got it sitting there. You put a little bit of it to the left too, You already have the perfect match to here, so why not? Okay. So you get the theme in the distance now. What I'm going to do is give my brush a little bit of a wipe here. Not too clean, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to raise the value. I'm just going straight yellow ochre and a bit of white. Actually, my brush is a bit dirty, and that's okay. I'd like to lay in a few lighter spots. This is not going to be the highest value in the sky necessarily, but it's going to show us a little bit of design in the sky. Yeah, it's a bit subtle. That's good. Okay, that's very wet and wet. I might just there, immediately a little more of a 3D feel, you know? Now, I'm not going to continue with that because it's wet and wet, and I think I'm going to let the paint set on the canvas a little bit before I go in to make anything intense. You know, that's often what I try to do. I'll go into an area, more or less painted in, or in general painted in, but I'll reserve the final bang. I'll play my last cards once all of the information in the area is in place. That just makes for an easier decision. So let me just bring the camera around and square it off with the canvas as usual so that you can see it more clearly. Flipping viewfinder here. Not the viewfinder, what do you call it? The screen. So you can see the placement of everything now. See, just a bit of a glow in the sky there. I don't want too much strength in the sky. My intention is to put some sunlight around the base, at least, of this outhouse, and maybe fading off as it goes up towards the roof. Oh yeah, that's another thing I forgot. I'm going to break this massive foliage up here a little bit, put some kind of a design in it. Just make it seem more autumn-like, more, as I said, autumnal. Just rarify the foliage. It should be more sparsely leaved than that. I don't like the shape of it even. It looks kind of clunky. Okay, talk to you soon.